Cheers. That's good.
What's going on, guys? Wilhelm Carver here, and today I am starting a bit of a new series. It's mainly just going to be a glorified haul series. In this age of consumer culture, a lot of people my age and above, and especially below, they like to buy stuff, and even more so, they like to put it on the internet for people to look at. Now, although haul videos can be kind of tiresome, I do enjoy the occasional one where it's more about why the item itself interested that person and why they felt the need to spend money on it, or if there's a unique story at how they came to acquire it. I think that's pretty cool to sit down and talk about, so I thought I would give myself a bit of a crack at it. Kind of similar to how Henry Rollins does his Fanatic book series, where he tracks down obscure pressings of music and he talks about the history behind it and what makes it so unique. I thought I would try and do something in that vein, as opposed to I bought this on the internet and then it arrived at my house, so here it is. So I'm going to try and do this bi-monthly just so this channel doesn't turn into I bought this, look at it. Probably every other month I'll do one of these, or every month if I have something interesting to talk about. It's just gonna kind of be an unscheduled, I'll make it when I feel like it kind of thing. I promise higher quality videos are on the way. I have scripts written and I have videos recorded. I'm just working on them at the moment. But for now, I thought I would go through some interesting purchases and finds. And the first item that I'm going to talk about tonight is something that I didn't necessarily purchase, rather I got it signed, and that was my Spirit World CDs. I got Pagan Rhythms and Death Western signed by Stu Folsom, the brainchild of the Spirit World project. I have talked about Spirit World in the past on this channel, and a few months ago they announced that they would be touring in support of Obituary on their 35-year anniversary Cause of Death headlining tour. And given that Spirit World is one of my favorite bands at the moment, their most recent release is so far one of my favorite of the year, I thought I would make the trek to Berkeley, California to see the show. And I will say, every band on the bill was absolutely fantastic. Nails, Terror, and Pest Control were all fantastic openers. And as a guy who's not the world's biggest fan of Obituary, I thought they put on a very electric set. But Spirit World was the main band that I was there to see, and I initially had no luck tracking down Stu Folsom throughout the night. The merch guy said that he was busy and he was taking care of some stuff, so I eventually made my exit from the venue after the main headliner had gone off stage, and I had begun driving home. However, something clicked in me at the last minute, and I decided I would give it one final ditch effort, and I made a U-turn, and I'm very glad I did, because as I pulled up to the theater, Spirit World and one other band, which I think it was Terror, were in the midst of loading their gear up into their trailers. And Stu was very kind enough to take a break and have a quick conversation with me about his band. I was particularly interested in the intro to Pagan Rhythms, the sample with the pastor talking about rock and roll music and how it is the devil's music.
The idea that certain rhythm patterns or sequences serve as conduits for spiritual energies, linking individual human consciousness with the God.
The devil knows this. The devil knows how to use.
I was curious if that was a sample or if that was something Stu and his bandmates had created themselves. And Stu told me that it was in fact a sample. His brother had sent him a sermon that a pastor did on rock and roll music, and Stu saw it and he decided that that was going to be the intro to his first album. And after that, we talked a little bit more about upcoming tours and what he was going to be doing next. And then I took a quick picture with him, gave him a handshake, and was on my very way. And it was really cool because I was initially leaving Berkeley a little disappointed that I couldn't find Stu, and that put a damper on my night. However, I decided last minute to try one more time, and it made the night feel so much better at the end of it. So as I mentioned, we have Death Western signed by Stu. We also have Pagan Rhythms, again, signed by Stu on the inside. So I have a couple of signed Spirit World CDs, and I'm very, very happy about that. They are one of my favorite bands at the moment. The next items I have to talk about come all the way from Washington, D.C., so other side of the country. I was there for a work event, and in my spare time, whenever I'm in a big city, I always like to venture to the local record stores and see if I can't burn some cash, and I just like to see what kind of unique finds they have, and I found some very interesting stuff. I'd gone to a couple, but the most interesting one by far was a place called Joint Custody, which was half records and then half clothing, like old vintage late 90s, early 2000s t-shirts. And they had some pretty cool stuff. They had some vintage WWF t-shirts, which I almost walked away with, some old 80s, 90s, and 2000s band stuff, which was also really cool. But there was one t-shirt that I saw. When I laid eyes on it, I knew I had to have it. But before I get into that, I did buy a couple of DVDs. They just had a small stack of DVDs there, and I found a couple that interested me. We have Cannibal Holocaust, one of the most controversial horror films ever made. If you know anything about horror, you probably know all about this movie, so I'm not gonna go too much into detail. I have seen it once, and I don't have a real desire to see it a second time, but it is something cool to add to my collection of items that piss off my parents. And then we also have a Maryland Death Fest DVD. Given that Maryland is right up the street from Washington, D.C., it's no surprise that this inevitably made its way down to D.C., and it is pretty cool. I have never been to Maryland Death Fest. I have wanted to go for quite a while, so we'll see if I inevitably go, but for now I have this little movie to tie me over. And there are some great bands on here. You got Asphyx, you have Napalm Death, Misery Index, Pig Destroyer, some really, really cool stuff. So I'm definitely excited to pop this into my player and watch it as I do something in the background. But as I mentioned, the most interesting thing by far was this t-shirt that I found. And even though I had no idea that this shirt existed, the millisecond I saw it, I knew it was coming home with me, even if it didn't fit, and thankfully it does. But what we have here is an officially licensed, this is real, a 2004 Metallica SpongeBob SquarePants crossover t-shirt. And the fact that this was 2004 means that this is Saint Anger Metallica, which makes this shirt probably a million times better. So yeah, it is a bit dirty, has a small hole in it, but for the price that it was listed, I couldn't let this thing go. It was just too cool. And I should be seeing Metallica here soon, so I will definitely be wearing this to that show. I did a little bit of research on it, and people said that it was a Hot Topic shirt from back in 2004. Whatever it may be, it's cool. I needed to have it, and yeah, Metallica and SpongeBob SquarePants, just the coolest crossover ever. So Washington, D.C., you're a goddamn mess right now, but even then, I'm still able to find some cool stuff. This next set of items comes from right here in Sacramento, California, with a guitarist that needs no introduction. Gary Holt of Exodus and Slayer was doing a book signing to promote his recent book, A Fabulous Disaster, From the Garage to Madison Square Garden. It's essentially his autobiography where he talks about growing up in a band in the Bay Area, talking about sobriety and addiction, how it's influenced the band, and a whole bunch of other stories. I started reading it. I am enjoying it very much. I tend to enjoy musical biographies quite a bit. The bookstore that hosted the event is called Wild Sisters, and they did a phenomenal job. Everybody was super laid back. The hostesses were very kind and welcoming. Everything moved smoothly. Everybody was cool. So if you're ever in Sacramento and you want to go to a bookstore, Wild Sisters is a pretty good one. But as I mentioned, we have the book here, and Gary made sure to personalize every single one, including mine. So here we have it. To William, that's English for Wilhelm. Gary Holt. So I am definitely excited to give this a full read and maybe do a review on it. Who knows? Probably not. And at the event, Gary was kind enough to sign any Slayer or Exodus items that you brought with you, which I did because it was either that or try hounding him in front of a tour bus again, and I know which one's going to be more successful. But the few items that I have, we have my Slayer gig poster from Aftershock last year. Talked about this in another video. It's pretty cool to have a member of Slayer sign it, even though I don't think I'm going to get any of the other three. Carrie is pretty hit or miss. Paul, I hear, is not into signing stuff, and I have a better chance of single-handedly solving the conflict in the Middle East than getting Tom Araya to sign something in 2025. And then for the other items that I got Gary to sign, I have a couple of Exodus CDs, Fabulous Disaster and Bonded by Blood, as well as my Slayer Repentless 2 set. The best part about this CD is actually the packaging. I bought this at a record store when I was visiting Germany last year, and it's one of those stores where they just have the cases and stuff out on display, and then you bring it up and then they give you the CD itself just so you don't steal it. And then watching him unfold the packaging as he put the CD in was pretty funny. This is a live reenactment of that. Yeah, it basically just folds out into a giant inverted cross, and I got Gary to sign it right there. So yeah, not sure if I'm going to display this because it is just a piece of flimsy cardboard, but it's a pretty cool thing to have signed. So, and then the last portion of this haul video is my haul from a show that I just went to recently. Dragon to Sunlight had finally returned from the UK. They are back on American soil, and as I'm recording this, I'm pretty sure they are still touring. The only Northern California date they were going to is the family-friendly city of Oakland, which I was debating going to or not, and I finally decided that you only live once, and if you're going to Oakland, you're probably living a very short time. and I cut my losses and I went to Oakland. And surprisingly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Definitely not a place I would want to walk around alone in at night, but as far as walking around during the day, in the area that the venue was in, I felt perfectly fine. I went with my friend Jordan, or Rapture Textiles on Instagram, a very great patch vendor. I absolutely love his products. Highly recommend him if you're looking to make a vest. But we went together and we decided that at the end of the night we were going to try and get our items signed, his back patch and my CD. And as we were waiting in line, I did make conversation with one of the roadies, who I'm going to leave his name out of this video because I don't know if he wants to be identified or not. But I made friends with him. We were just chatting for a little bit about where he was from, when I visited there a few years prior. So that was pretty cool. And by the end of the night, the band members were getting packed up and didn't really seem like they wanted to talk to fans, which was perfectly understandable when you're a band that's touring on the road, and especially when you're in Oakland, California. And as Jordan and I were pretty close to calling it quits, the roadie that I had talked to earlier in the night came up to us, and he took my CD and he took Jordan's vest and he went onto the bus, and out he came a few minutes later, and it had T's signature on it. There are two guys named T, so I don't know which one it was that signed it, but honestly, given the mythos and aura of Dragon to Sunlight, I think I like it that way a little bit better. But I got my copy of Hatred for Mankind signed by T of Dragon to Sunlight. It could have just been the roadie himself signing it, but my headcanon is that it was T, so we're gonna go with that. And because I haven't actually mentioned the show itself, Dragon to Sunlight set was probably the best one I've seen all year, apart from maybe Danzig, and even then I'm just biased because I like Danzig. Their set was absolutely incredible. It was a spectacle to behold, which is pretty ironic considering it's a lack of a spectacle because they play with their backs to the crowd. So you get what I mean. But at the show, I also picked up a couple of t-shirts, which I tend to be pretty conservative around merch tables, but there is the odd and off show where I will buy multiple t-shirts, and this is one of them. So we have this really cool one with kind of a mutilated bunch of skulls design, which I think looks pretty cool. And then we also have this one, which is the band's logo, as well as a cross being shoved into someone's mouth in a very grotesque manner. And on the back, it just says Hatred for Mankind and has their logo. So yeah, Dragon to Sunlight. I didn't think I was ever gonna get to see them, and I'm glad I did, because wow, what a set. Here's some footage just because. But that is pretty much going to wrap up this first episode of this Untitled Haul series. I don't know when I will do another one again. This is just going to be a very unscripted, unscheduled thing. Just doing when I feel like it, and we'll see what I have next time. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what you've been buying recently, and I'll see you guys next time. Good night.